Stairs are a place where I am constantly run. Who's laughing? I am horrified. Simone, 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 it's you. Simone, Simone, it's you.
Am I in middle school? Okay.
She's a bad girl.
Are you gonna send me to the principal?
I'm talking about my childhood. I was only a kid once.
I'm listening. Cool.
It's never too late to have a happy childhood.
Yes, it is for me. Anyway, so this reoccurring thing in my dreams that would get to me is that I died a lot in my dreams. I fought monsters in my dreams. I was ripped apart by sharks. None of it really bothered me. I had this kind of cool detachment from it all. But I would always get especially upset when I would try to grow upstairs. I try to go upstairs. Just simple stairs. Stairwell to a house, stairwell to a school, stairwell on the side of a building. I'd start to climb up, and then suddenly I couldn't really get higher. I had to crawl on all fours. Even with a rail, I clung on for dear life because I was afraid of something. Even if it wasn't much of a fall. And it took me a long time to get over that fear, which, if you could understand, is a primordial fear. I mean, throughout so many cultures, if not everyone, there's this fear of the basic binary of that which goes down is bad and that which goes up is good. And when I approached the stairwell, I couldn't go up or down. But I found an answer, and I'm going to share with you what I did. But you have to make it worth my while, all right? So we're gonna play a little game, all right? One of you is the wolf. Now, if you can guess correctly who is the wolf, who in this room is the wolf, then I'll tell you. All right, give me like 10 seconds to go around telling people if they are or are not the wolf. You're not the wolf. All the people in the kitchen are not the wolf. Word. So there's something else. All right, so if y'all can correctly guess who's the wolf, I'll tell you. But now, enough of this introduction. I feel that you are connected with me, that I'm connected with at least 98% of you, so I'll begin. This is a piece that I'm working on. It's never done. It's called Failed Fairy Tales. Now, I have a very heroic image of a child. All right, pick a harp or guitar. Which one? Which one? I have a heroic view of a child. You know, it doesn't take long to emerge out of the darkness, crawling into light. Suddenly there's sounds all around you. You don't know what they mean. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't even know your image and the reflection of a mirror. I think the child is heroic, figuring out everything for the first time. Slowly being able to move, to see, to recognize, to hear, to want. To realize that there is a future and there is a past. I think that children are the most brave of creatures. Suddenly their teeth growing out of their gums. Suddenly they're able to walk and rise and talk, and yes, they can talk, and yes, they can. But then something terrifying happens. child loses a tooth. And you might think it's silly because most of your teeth. But when a child loses a tooth, suddenly everything is thrown into question. Suddenly your idea of progress, your idea of going from young to old, from not knowing how to speak to speaking, to not knowing how to. Maybe you'll start crawling again. Maybe you'll have to climb back inside of your mother or something. You don't know, you're just a child. No one told you would lose your teeth. They were like little castles in your mouth. Ivory strongholds for words and language. Now what do you do as a child? You cry, of course, because suddenly you're forced with this existential dilemma that maybe the idea of progress is a lie and the realization of death is true. When suddenly your Aunt Flora tells you about the Tooth Fairy. And it's a miracle. Everyone loves the Tooth Fairy. Not only do you get money for your teeth, but you find out that it might be a good thing to lose a couple of them. I mean, after all, you didn't need all your teeth. And what's that? That little one? That little dawn of enamel? A new one, a new tooth. You can speak again. You don't have to whistle to that weird gap in your mouth. And suddenly words are strong again. And language makes sense. And a future appears. And you're not only walking, but you're running, and you're swimming, and you're pole vaulting. Some of us. You know, many cultures have a tooth fairy. Our version of tooth fairy is relatively recently, thank you late capitalism, but earlier than that, there was a tooth rat. Yeah, it was really popular from the French. We kind of borrowed it. But in France, they had this idea of a little mouse, right? You would lose a tooth, and a little mouse would come and give you something, maybe candy, maybe money. And the idea, through some kind of sympathetic idea of magic, is that suddenly you would grow rat teeth. Consider the logic. The tooth of a rat is strong. It doesn't fall out. They chew through wood, they chew through your sneakers, they chew through cabinets, they chew through a drywall, they chew through you if you're really unlucky. But their teeth don't fall out. Some cultures, they throw the tooth into the sun. Or they bury it at your feet. Or in some cultures, the mom actually swallows the tooth. I don't know what that's about. I think that's kind of weird. But everyone has this little ritual of dealing with teeth to soothe children, suddenly forgetting the voice as it falls off their lips. And it's a fairy tale. It's your first fairy tale. And then suddenly you're believing in God and, I don't know, the presidency and stuff like that. But at some point you go older. And at some point your teeth don't come back. And at some point you realize the fairy tales that you were given are suddenly maybe not real.
Yeah, dog, I feel it too.
This might get a little dramatic. It's okay. I mean, drama is exciting. You know, jeez, come on. Isn't it SpongeBob, dog? You know, his first memory, as he recalls it, is his mother comes home wasted, and she's drinking the milk in the fridge. And she's so drunk, she forgets to put it back in her refrigerator, and it stays out all night. and she catches herself in the morning, waking up early, putting it in the fridge. She does this because she knows that the father in the story really doesn't like his milk warm. He likes it cold. He, as a kid, is sitting in his living room watching the television. He's really involved in some commercial about oatmeal or something, but it doesn't matter. His dad is soon getting ready for work. He opens up the fridge. He pulls out the milk, pours a glass, drinks it. He pours another glass of milk. He goes to the mother. He puts the milk in his mouth. He looks at the mother. He spits the milk out in her face. He puts the glass down. His mother goes over to where the father was cleaning the gun. She grabs it and aims it right at the father's face. It's empty. It's empty. He's empty. That was the first memory of the guardian angel when we were in jail. We were in PSYOPs. That's where we put all the crazy people, or the people recovering from heroin, or the people they just think it was a problem. They put them down somewhere in the bottom, the basement, the very, like, kind of in a corner where no one really goes, no one really wants them, no one even tries to remember them. They're kind of the crevice of forgetting in a place already enchanted with forgetting. PSYOPs, psychological observations, is where no one really cares about you, and that's where I was for a few days in jail. Because I didn't want to eat. Because of maybe this idea of Persephone going down in Hades and having a few pomegranates and having to stay there forever, maybe it got to me. Anyway, I was there in the bed in a place where the lights didn't go off. I was there in a place where you didn't have pencil, you didn't have paper, you didn't have books to read. I was there when time fell apart. But there was one guy who couldn't stop talking. His mouth just went on and 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 on. He had so many stories of how he started collecting reptiles as a child, and he would sell reptiles for money, and he began a life of endless crime. He told us how to counterfeit money using lighter fluid and dishwashing liquid. He told us how to make fake heroin using DC powder and electricity and wasp spray maybe. He told us how to do credit card scams. He told us all the time he created a fake identity and had 2 different sets of record for each identity, even though he had the same fingerprints. It was a matter of what county he was in, which identity would come up, and which charge he would get, though he often got off because he pleaded psychological insanity. He wasn't really insane, at least by, our standard. He got clean off of heroin maybe about 15 times. He couldn't do it again. He memorized every bit of Narcotics Anonymous. He would quote passages endlessly while we were in the jail. But eventually, after he told us the second time about his Xanax binge, when he was involved in a high-speed chase with several police officers, totaling a couple of their cars by driving through the mud and taunting them, driving against traffic 5 times, sticking his tongue out and teasing the police officers before running out of gas and being caught. When he started running out of stories about how to move through a neighborhood when you are tall and lanky and as white as he was. The trick is you go up to people you don't know. You ask them for change. They assume that you have nothing. He told us all kinds of scam. How to steal money from Lowe's. How to do a getaway. How to know when someone's lying. But eventually he ran out of stories. Eventually, after running out of stories, time began to crawl back in. And so then the inmates looked to me to tell them stories, to buy the time. All right, failed fairy tales. Who wants their first failed fairy tale? Raise your hands. Oh, you have the enthusiasm of lepers. All right. First, before you get it, you have to guess who is the wolf. Make a guess. God damn it! That was supposed to last all night. Yeah, I was true. I was the wolf. I was the wolf. All right, I'm gonna tell you after this story how I got over my fear of stairs. But now there's not really any interludes for the rest of the night. So I hope you're happy for being right. Oh, he was not pretty. He was kind of the opposite. No one wanted to be around him. He didn't have any talents. He didn't have any skills. He wasn't particularly scented well. But he would watch all the girls gather around Michael. And all the girls would fawn over Michael and his long hair and his perfect teeth, his accent, his athleticism. So he decided that he would invite Michael over for some Crash Bandicoot. Because who didn't like Crash Bandicoot back in the day? And while Michael would play the video game, he would sneak into Michael's room, look in Michael's bedroom mirror, and crawl inside of it. His thinking was that if he could steal Michael's reflection, that somehow all the girls would look at him with eyes wide and bright like spoonfuls of jelly. And sure enough, when Michael came by, he traded his reflection for Michael's. And suddenly the women were all over him with their angel hair and their nimble fingers. And he felt loved and understood. Until a few years down the line, when he realized that men aren't the center of fairy tales. I mean, you can turn a frog prince and a frog legs for anyone cares about. It's all about the princess or the queen or the lost child in the woods. The prince is relatively nameless and exists more so as a trophy that recognizes your good behavior, your good spirit, your good deeds, your wit, your charm. And so he just sat on a shelf with nothing to do and nothing to say, because fairy tales were told grandmother to mother to daughter. Fairy tales were not told to small boys. Fairy tale number 2. Don't clap! They're failures. What? Sorry, that was broken. It's not broken. I'm broken. Once upon a time. I really think that she was right to sacrifice everything like that. She took on all the poisons of man and a little green necklace around her neck. She used to be able to go to the beach freely, ride the rail car. She used to be able to talk to her neighbors, go and bake whatever she likes, go and climb wherever she likes, go and hike wherever she likes, go to whatever library and read wherever she likes. She had dreams bigger than the sky could buckle under them. But now when she went for a swim, all the fish would turn up dead. When she went for a walk in the rooms, the deer would fall over, exasperated, the little light in her eyes flipping away like a coin into a well. She got used to being alone. All the animals would come and sit by her, but they wouldn't last long because she was cursed with poison, radiation, and loneliness. One day, you see over there, there's a figure. There that figure is, so brave, riding like a comet, the armor is glistening. It's a knight, it's a young man, it's someone who has the key, maybe in the form of a sword, maybe in the form of a magic word. And he pulls up to her, and he's like, I was told of your perils. And I have come to save you. And I have come to carry you off into. And she says, shh, 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 shut up. You think you know what you want. You think you want me. But everything I touch curls and disappears. The leaves go from spring to fall to winter to gone. You think you know me, you think I am the light as it moves and bends and iridescent swirls through the window. You don't know me, I am the light that cooks and dries and is heat. So if you want someone beautiful, if you want someone everyone admires and looks up to, if you want someone with a beautiful song, go ahead and marry that bird over there. Go and marry the bird because I'm not the one. I'm not the one for you. And the knight gets off of his horse, takes off his helmet, and only asks one question. Only asks one question. Only asks one question. Which bird?
Which bird?
And he and the bird lives happily ever after. They go everywhere together, hand in hand, singing. The bird is flying, getting a good idea of like which route to mess with traffic. And the princess has an ending too. She has an ending too. They keep her around because she can make popcorn just by walking through a cornfield. We worked long hours in the factory. We sweat all the sweat we have left to sweat. We left our families behind for the factory to work on the metaphor. We barely took breaks because production was. Because production. Everyone huddled around each other for night for warmth. Everyone stood in line working on their own part of the metaphor, whispering to each other, wondering where this metaphor was going, where it pointed to. But the boss never said anything about it, just chew his gum, moving his lips but nothing coming out but smacks. We spent all day and all night, all summer and all fall working on the metaphor. Some of us wondered if it would ever be done. Jack went mad and started howling at the moon through the window when we had to work overnight. And there were reports of accidents happening. One time the metaphor got out of control and started spilling over, started melting through everything, started digging a hole into the ground, into a long darkness. I requested time off to be with those that I love. Request denied. I don't know how drums work. I just got this thing the other day. So, I'm not done.
Oh.
I'm fulfilling my end of the bargain. The trick, if you can't sleep because you're afraid of going upstairs, so close your eyes and slowly open them as you look up. And this way, you don't have to go up or down. This way, you're only going in circles. And the stairs are an illusion. And they were never real. And you were never going up. And therefore, you were never going down. When my mom was sick, my dad was full of light. He told me to take aim and fire. When the deer was dead, the sky went dark. The stars were shattered across the sky, across the failure of blue. And he said, you can't love your mother as much as you want to. my stories were over, and the inmates were eating mush or whatever you can call that food when I was sent to be extradited to another jail. And I told that one guy who kept talking that I would call him, that I wrote down his number on a styrofoam plate, and that I would call him and we would keep in touch, and he wouldn't become another colonel or forgetting in the jail, because that's what that place is, forgetting. And so I finally got out, and I went through all of my belongings that I kept, because I kept it the whole time in my pocket. And when I pulled it out, I could barely read the writing, and pieces of it were missing. So I failed. You know, when I was a kid, I was fascinated by the people on a parade that would carry fire above their heads, glistening like gold had melted on their skin. And people would toss bits of, and my parents didn't recognize me slipping away like a shadow slips under other shadows. And I followed them down a long hallway, and I followed them into a sewer, and I followed them down a staircase, and I followed them into a closet. And suddenly I was in an endless dark space when the stars were stretched out like memories. And I saw them in an opening, walking into my room. And I wanted to walk in with them, confront them, but already my room was on fire. And suddenly I was one of them. And suddenly I was one of them. And suddenly I was one of them. I would try, but I was one of them. And their name was stuck on my gums. Years later, they confessed to me that they didn't mean to set my room on fire, that they were actually going to bring me a birthday cake and light the candles. But you know, Jack's kind of tall over there, and you had curtains, and it all kind of just like went to flame, you know, whatever, so. Everyone has a fairy tale. All fairy tales are failed. There was one fairy tale that I remember, that you remember, that we all remembered. And in that fairy tale, you and I got along, and we loved each other, and we knew each other, and we cared about each other. And we worked very, 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 very hard. We worked very, 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 very hard, and we made something come from nothing, because sometimes something can come from nothing, just like light comes from darkness, or our life comes from no life. Our consciousness comes from things that were suddenly not consciousness. And thinking that, you would be surprised that we found out one day that all of our dreams were a lie. That fairy tale wasn't true. That dream could not hold us together. You know the fairy tale called our economy. Yeah, that's it. It's been a long time. So now I'm finally done. That's the end of Failed Fairy Tales. I was the wolf all along. If you have questions, you can mail them to P.O. Box 1872465. Yeah, and if you see the people in the kitchen, tell them it was an amazing show, and I did backflips, and that I was like secretly like eating like the best blueberry cake, and then I had enough for everyone, and everyone had any.